Inshallah, brothers who are still in the gathering, we should engage in dhikr and durood, inshallah, before we begin, so we can have the rahmah and the mercy of Allah with us, inshallah. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallayta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Respected brothers and elders, mothers and sisters in Islam, as we know that we have gathered here for the 9th annual pathway to Jannah. May Allah make the path of Jannah easy for us. Brothers and sisters, may Allah give us tawfiq that we take those steps that will lead us towards Jannah. For indeed, there is no one who can give us this ability except by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And indeed, there is no one who can stop us from doing wrong and evil except by the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And for indeed, it is Allah who inspires the hearts to do what is correct and right. And for indeed it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who inspires the hearts to leave the wrong and keep the wrong. And as I said last night, brothers and sisters, we need to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to see the good as good in our eyes, and allow us to see the wrong as wrong, and allow us to avoid those things. So may Allah make this easy for all of us. Brothers and sisters, Pathway to Jannah's theme this year is how to earn Jannah. How do I lead a path, and how do I earn the Jannah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Which should be the ultimate goal of each and every one of us. There are some young kids I see here, I see some millennials here. A lot of time I see these people, and of course these young people, and sometimes myself, they tweet or they snap and they Facebook a post and they say hashtag goals. And then there are goals of their lives. They see something really nice and then they say the hashtag goals, or things like that. So the ultimate goal of a believer is the closeness of Allah in this world and paradise in the day of Qiyamah. That you can get the rida and the happiness of Allah. That on the day of judgment that Allah says, I'm radi and I'm happy with you. That is the ultimate goal of a believer, and we all are striving towards achieving that goal. Brothers and sisters, in order to achieve this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us multiple paths. We've been talking about this since yesterday. We talked about the aspect of respect. We talked about salah. Shaykh Imran talked about it so beautifully. We talked about good mannerism. We talked about knowledge. We talked about piety. Excuse me. And we talked about all these beautiful topics that are steps towards leading towards Jannah. All these beautiful things. Exactly, I got it. So, all these beautiful things lead us towards Jannah. I want to share with you a passage from the Quran, which is only 11 verses, and they are not long, I promise you. But it's going to require a lot of your attention, because I want to do it in a sense of tafsir, where I want you to learn the linguistics of the Quran. I want you to dive in these ayats of the Quran. Otherwise, we can go through the meaning, we can go through the lecture of these ayats of the Quran, and inshallah we will be done in an hour and a half, at which the time that we have. But I want you to dive in the Quran with me. I want you to introspect every single word of the Quran, that the next time that you see this ayat of the Quran, it just opens in front of you. So these are 11 verses of the Quran, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala defines to us a path of earning not only Jannah, brothers and sisters. These ayats of the Quran are teaching us to earn al-firdaus al-a'la. May Allah grant us al-firdaus al-a'la, brothers and sisters. Rasulullah said, when you ask for Jannah, ask for al-firdaus, the highest of Jannah itself. For where the springs of Jannah begin, the purest of the pure. For indeed the most beautiful of the ni'mah of Jannah is the ziyarah and the sight of Allah. For some who will have the chance once in Jannah, for those who will have during the time too. And then there are those in Jannah, whenever they wish they can see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those are the people of the Firdaus of A'la. May Allah make us from amongst those. And that's why the Nabi of Allah said, whenever you ask Allah for Firdaus, whenever you ask Allah for Jannah, paradise, ask Allah for Firdaus. Ask Allah for the highest of the other places. Even though, brothers and sisters, we all know ourselves, we may not be worthy of those deeds, but we ask Allah for His mercy that He grants us the Jannah. The one who gave us this iman, the one who allowed us to be sitting here at this moment, spending these moments in the masjid, knowing all of our lives and our sins and our wrongs, our Allah still brings us allows us to keep that Islamic identity and allow us to be that Muslim. We ask Allah that, oh Allah, on the day of Qiyamah with your rahmah, give us the highest of the Jannah, along with our loved ones and our parents and our brothers and our sisters, brothers and sisters. Let's jump into the ayats of the Quran. The Quran says, and excuse me, my throat is actually gone for a few weeks, but let's continue. The Quran begins by A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajeem, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. I won't be able to get into the details of these two verses, the words that y'all, but directly to the ayats of the Quran. He says in chapter number 23, Surah Al-Mu'minun, which is known as the chapter of the believers. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. Three words, particular words in the first verse of the Quran. The word qad, and I told you this is going to be a little boring, but I want you to jump inside the Quran with me today to realize and extract from these verses of the Quran. The word qad in Arabic, when it comes before a verb, and there's a verb and there is a noun, right? And I'll explain this in just a little bit, and forgive me for my English lecture, I was never good at it. But of course learning Quran just gives us that thought to go back to those times. So the word qad, whenever the word qad in Arabic comes before a verb, it gives us affirmation, it gives us ta'qeed, it gives us something that is a must. Or sometimes it also comes for the meaning of a done deal. Meaning if the word qad comes before a verb, it shows us the meaning that something is done with affirmation, with tahqiq. Or it also tells us that something is already a done deal, or shows us something that has already happened in goodness, meaning it has already occurred itself. Qad roughly, if you try to roughly translate the word rough, it could come in four different meanings. The word qad in Arabic roughly has four different meanings. When it precedes a past tense in Arabic linguistics, which means a past tense in a verb, it can give you the meaning of affirmation, to show you something that has already happened. Meaning in this verse of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses this as before the verb aflaha, which means successful. Qad aflaha, meaning the believers have already become successful. Meaning they don't have to wait to become successful, they have already become successful. So the word qad, when it comes before a verb, it comes from tahqiq, affirmation, something which is a done deal already. Or it can also give you the meaning of taqarrub, something that is coming very, very close, or closeness. So for example, we say qad qamat as-salah, right? Qad qamat as-salah. The word qad in this ayah of the Quran doesn't mean that the salah has already stood, but it also refers to closeness of something, that something is coming very close to you itself. So when we take the word qad in Arabic linguistics, it can be used in four different terminologies. But I'll talk about only two quickly because we need to get to all these 11 ayats. So one of them is to give you affirmation, tahqiq, indeed. Something is a done deal. That's why the word qad comes. Or it comes to tell us that something is coming very close to it. That's why we say qad qamat as-salah. So here, in this word, when we say in iqamah, qad is used because prayer is about to be performed, and we say qad qamat as-salah, it's about to start itself. So when we talk about, in this very ayah of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying here that those who have truly believed have already become successful. Meaning the success of the believer has already been defined by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That they are in fact successful as of right now. It is not that a believer will become successful, because brothers and sisters, a lot of time there's a misconception in the minds of many of us, especially our young people. We think deen will give us success in akhirah. That's a big misconception. A lot of time we think that deen and being a mu'min, a person of iman, the success is related to afterlife, death. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying to us in this ayah of the Quran, and we always tend to think that those who attain true faith are only successful in akhirah and hereafter. But the Quran is saying, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. The believers are already successful. So the success of a true believer begins in this life. Their success has already started. Rather, they are successful in both of the abodes. So now the word qad is kind of clear in front of us. Not in very detail, but a little bit. So whenever the word qad comes before a verb, And a past tense, it affirms a done deal. Or it shows the closeness of something that is about to be mentioned. Two ways I mentioned. So now we understand. Let's get to the word aflaha. The word aflaha in Arabic linguistics refers to successful. The word successful. But let's get back to the deeper root meaning of aflaha. Where does the word aflaha actually comes from? The word aflaha comes from the Arabic root words of falahun. And the word falahun in Arabic is actually a farmer. Falahun in Arabic actually means a farmer. If you ever go to an Arabic country and you look, the farmers is actually known as falahun. Why is a farmer known as falah? So in origin meaning of the word falahun, the act that the farmer does when he tears up the soil and he puts the plow and he cuts open the earth and the soil, that action of tearing open the earth in Arabic is known as falah. That's the meaning of the word falah in Arabic linguistics. So in farming, there are two types of tearing. And this is a little bit detailed, but I want you to think. I want you to dive in the Quran with me. The farmer actually does two types of tearing. There's two times that he tears open the earth or the ground. The first time that the farmer does that is when he is planting the seeds, right? Does that make sense? Is it boring? You guys are okay with me? You guys still here? Okay, good. So we're talking about the ayah of the Quran, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. We talked about qad, we're on the word aflaha. Now aflaha in Arabic linguistic is taken from a word known as falahun. What does the word falahun mean? Farmer. Now why is the farmer known as falahun? Because the act of tearing the ground and cutting it open in Arabic linguistic is known as falah, right? The action of tearing open the ground and earth is known as falahun in Arabic. How many times does a farmer tear open the ground? 2 times. The first time he opens the ground and he plants the seeds. The second time the farmer tears open the ground is when he's harvesting and taking the fruits out, or the plantations or vegetation or anything that he has planted, he's taking out, right? There's 2 times that this person is doing. So the tearing of the farmer goes to as well when he's planting the seed, or tearing the soil when the harvest of the crop is complete. So how do we see the relevance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's usage of the word aflaha described to a state of a believer? Now think about this. What does a farmer tearing open the ground have to do with the words of success of a believer? Like, where is the Quran making sense in our minds? We should think about it. A lot of time we read, we skip over it, we don't really think about it. Why and how is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comparing the opening of the ground of a farmer as a means of success for a believer, right? That's what the analogy is linguistically. So if you look at the ayat of the Quran and how does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala use the relevance of that and uses the verb aflaha to describe the believer's success, the sign that subhanAllah is so beautiful is that the sign that a farmer is harvesting and tearing up the soil is a good sign of things. His crops could have been destroyed by a drought. There could have been a drought that could have finished the entire crops. Maybe heavy rains or heavy winds. All these things could have happened. But everything went well and he reaped the fruits of his labor and struggled the entire year. And he took the harvest of his fruit. So it's a good news for a farmer to tear open the ground. When he's sowing the seed and when he's harvesting the crops, it's always a good sign for a farmer that he's able to take back the efforts. All the things that were surrounding him, heavy rains and winds and droughts, were all missed and he was given the fruits that he was looking for. This is like the laborer who struggles and strives and reaps, of course, the fruits of his and her labor in the life and the hereafter. So the life of a believer, brothers and sisters, is like a life of a farmer. The compensation does not come right away, but when it comes, the paycheck is really big. That's the thing that a believer needs to understand. That don't always look for success like that. A farmer sows the seed, and yes, he's looking towards success. But that success may not happen right away. It may take a little bit of time, but when the success does come, that one seed would give him thousands of more seeds, because the success is coming in large numbers. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding us of the success of a believer, that it's definitely there, but it may take some time. And ajib thing is, but there's only one difference between the farmer and the believer. And that is very, very important. Unlike the farmer, the believer's harvest is guaranteed. The farmer's harvest is not guaranteed. Allah knows if they will get rizq at the end or not. But wallahi, brothers and sisters, the word qad in the beginning, which says it's a done deal, is your harvest is done. Allah is taking care of it. Meaning, you put your effort, wait for the results, and you are successful. Just wait for that to come towards you. Meaning, the difference between the farmer and a believer is that the believer's harvest is guaranteed. And what is the third thing Allah mentions? Qad is used for, indeed, affirmation for something, that indeed is going to happen. Aflaha is a farmer who sows and opens and tears up and avoids all the things that are around to see the success which may come over time. Al-mu'minun, those who have true faith, those who truly have faith. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions this. This is a very delicate point. This might be one of the most difficult points that I share with you tonight. But I think if you take back this point, you're going to really cherish this for the rest of your life. You're going to love the ayats of the Quran when you go over them. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ, indeed the believers have become successful. They already did. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not say, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, those who bring iman have become successful. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, those who believed have become successful. So in this very ayah of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not say alladhina amanu, those who believe became successful. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says mu'mineen, believers are successful. Why? Why didn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say alladhina amanu, those who have iman? He said alladhina al-mu'minun directly. Reason behind that is for you to remember one qaida. And I know this is very difficult and I'm really boring in this, but I want you to remember this rule for the rest of your life in Arabic so you can learn and love the Quran. In Arabic, linguistically, a verb is always weaker than a noun. A verb is always weaker than a noun. Why? Because verb is very temporary. It's very fragile. It's very unstable at all times, because it's action, things at all times, which is very fragile, very temporary. It's very perishable at all times. So verb is very temporary. But a noun is something which is timeless. Person, place, or thing. It's something which is timeless, something which is permanent. So the usage of noun is always stronger than the usage of verb in Arabic. Do you get that point? Is that easy? I know it's a little hard, but something for you to understand. Alladhina amanu is a verb. Al-mu'minun is a noun directly. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is using not a verb but a noun because it's permanent, it's timeless, it's limitless. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that to us. So just because someone has become a believer in the past, may Allah forgive, may Allah keep us in iman, does not guarantee the strength of the faith today or tomorrow. Alladhina amanu, those who brought iman. That's why He didn't say those who became successful. Because when believers are called believers, using a noun, it is though that their faith has given stability, meaning it's permanent. Their faith has become strong. Alladhina amanu, when you say alladhina amanu, roughly could have three meanings, or three categories. The hypocrites who claim to be believers, they could also say alladhina amanu, we brought iman. Or those who are average Muslims, or those who have reached the faith to its climax. All of them can be referred to alladhina amanu. But when it comes to the word al-mu'minun, there are only one type. And what are those types of individuals? Those are those who have reached the elite level. So they are the third category of the individuals which talks about in this very ayah of the Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions to us. So knowing that there are three categories, of course, it is only Allah who can differentiate. We, as human beings, we cannot differentiate between people now. Or you are Iman category 1, you're Iman category 2, you're Iman... No, it is Allah who can differentiate. We're no one to gauge and judge anyone, and that's between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses a noun by saying al-mu'minun. rather than الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. Indeed, the believers have become successful. Not only this, the ayat of the Quran continues. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. And what is the literal meaning of this ayah of the Quran? Those who offer their salah prayers with all khushu, all solemnity and full of submissiveness. Their salah is full of submissiveness. خَاشِعُونَ. The first quality that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. Of course, iman is already a category, but those who pray their salah with full submissiveness. Now, what is khashi'un? الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ khashi'un. Because, brothers and sisters, my goal and your goal should be that at the end of the day, whatever are the qualities I want to get in my life. Why? Because the end result is al-firdaus al-a'la, right? So we really want to take back these qualities. I can do, and like for example, if someone says you do this, you do this, you do this, you get your dream job or your dream house or your dream, so you take notes, you want to make sure that all the work is done properly so you can attain what you're really looking for. So at the end of this ayah of the Quran, Allah is saying, I'm going to give you al-firdaus al-a'la. So that means that we need to strive for these things. So amongst the first thing Allah mentions, الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. That these are the individuals who offer their salah. Within their salah, they have solemnity, they have full of submissiveness in their life. So what is the word khashi'un? Those who are in constant state of humility. The word khashi'un, if you literally look into the details of it, it means those who are constant in the state of humility is known as khashi'un. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala again uses a noun, and I said this in the beginning. A noun is always stronger than a verb in Arabic language when Allah uses these. And He again uses noun here, again to show that these true believers are those who always perform their prayer with humility. It's not iffy, it's not sometimes, but it's a must for them that they perform their salah with humility. And it's a constant feature within their prayers is humility and humbleness. And their salah is full of humility and humbleness. And the word khashi'un, if you look into Arabic linguistics, it actually comes from a verb khasha'a, which actually means a type of fear. A type of fear that is overwhelming a person to a point that your muscles begin to become numb. In Arabic language, khasha'a in Arabic means that you are so afraid, you are so full of fear for something that your muscles begin to become numb. That is what khashiyat in Arabic actually means. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this ayah of the Quran is saying that when these individuals are making salah, they have so much consciousness of Allah that their limbs as though become numb to the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Their eyes and their hand and their feet and their minds have become fully involved in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's greatness. So the word khasha'a in Arabic, which is a type of fear, it actually means that when a person's body becomes numb. There's another verb in Arabic which has a very close meaning to this, and that is ajaza or idzun, which also refers to weakness. But the difference between idz and khashya is that idz means that you are so weak with fear that you fall on your knees, that you can't get up. You have become so ajiz, you have become so weak that you fall to your knees. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't mean that. He doesn't mean that. He means that they're still standing. And not only in salah, but their salah makes such fear in their hearts of the presence of Allah that all of their life is full of humility and humbleness. Even when they're out of salah, they know submissiveness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They know the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, especially in their prayers, but their feelings remain with them, and they're not limited to prayer itself, rather outside as well. And brothers and sisters, I say this very often, and I remind myself and all of you that this is also a great misconception in the minds of so many people, that for me, my deen and my religion is my masjid only. A lot of people say, brother, I can't lie, it's a masjid. What does that mean? You can lie outside? Meaning, I can't cheat him and her in the masjid, let's go outside and talk. What does that mean? You're going to deceive someone outside? Meaning, I can't slap that child, let's come outside and do it. Meaning, come on. Seriously, is this the limitation of our lives? That masjid is only our deen and outside is how I want to live? I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the masjid every single day, صِرَاطَ الَّذِينَ أَنَمْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ. I'm asking Allah for this, for the rest of my life. So the true believers, true deen is every moment of their life. For a believer, your home is your deen. For a believer, your job is your deen. For a believer, your family is your deen. For your believer, your children are your deen. For a believer, your spouses are your deen. For a believer, your work ethics is your deen. For a believer, your consumption of food is your deen. For a believer, your clothing and your dressing is your deen. Meaning, every part of your life is your deen and your religion. So we cannot just say that my deen is limited to my... So that's why this ayah of the Quran is saying, الَّذِينَ, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks, الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. When the word khashiyat is used in this ayat of the Quran, it is not ajaza, idzun, because that would only confine the word of humbleness in salah. But it says khashi'un, which means that their bodies become numb in the fear of Allah because they cannot move against the commands of Allah, which refers to their transactions outside. Brothers and sisters, that's why Rasulullah ﷺ was informed of a person that who makes salah and steals. And what did the Nabi of Allah ﷺ said? One day if he's making his salah properly, his salah will stop him from committing sins and haram. One day the salah will make this person leave all haram and wrong. Because the effect of salah is that it changes the life of an individual. But salah has to be salah itself. الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. It cannot be a salah that begins with a takbir. And may Allah forgive brothers and sisters, for the entire time of salah, not even once we remembered Allah. May Allah forgive us, brothers and sisters. One of the mashayikh, Shaykh Zakaria rahmatullah alayhi, also has written that the first thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes for a person who commits sins repeatedly and a person who commits sins secretly. A lot of time a person is in habit of committing sins thinking no one is watching me. I'm in the privacy of my home and my phone is with me and there is no one watching me. This person may be in the first saf, this meaning anything. We could be anywhere, but when it comes to our private lives, the hadith mentions the person who does that. The hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions to us the harms of sins in secrecy is that the iman of that person can be taken away. Hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is how harmful it is. So khashiyah. So the eyes of the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu, going back to it is الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ. They fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at every moment of their life. They are afraid of Allah and the consciousness of Allah at every moment of their life. No matter it's the day or the night, they're in public or they're private, all of their life, there's khashiyat and the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why it's so important to develop that. I was talking about Shaykh Zakaria rahmatullah alayhi, mentioning this, I came out of my mind, that inshallah, hopefully I'll remember soon, but he mentioned one of the incidents of the individuals, that how continuously, repeatedly committing sins in dark and loneliness can, subhanAllah, I remember. Shaykh Zakaria rahmatullah writes that the first effect of a sin, or a sinner that who commits sins in secrecy thinking that no one is watching, the first effect of that person is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes away the ladhat of his ibadat no matter where this person is. This person will be in Baytullah doing sajda, but there will be no remembrance of Allah. A person will be sitting in tahajjud, holding the Quran, but there will be no ta'alluq of Allah. A person will say Allah, Allah, but there will be no taste of the dhikr of Allah. Sins and committing sins continuously and thinking secretly where there is nothing secret from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the first effect is that Allah takes away the muhabbat of a'mal and the taste of a'mal away from the heart of that individual. And that's why, brothers and sisters, for many, and I talk for myself, may Allah give us the khushu in our salah, for indeed even in sajda I think of the ghayr of Allah. Even in sajda, a place which is the closest between me and my Rabb, I'm thinking of the ghayr of Allah. When will I think of Allah if my sajda is empty from the yad and the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? When will I remember Allah? Think about it. When will I know Allah? When will I leave sins when even in my tawaf I cannot control my eyes from haram? When will my heart fear Allah when the love of Allah is not increasing while I'm standing in front of the house of Allah? Brothers and sisters, this is things to think about. The ayats of the Quran are reminding us, الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ does not mean that the khashiyat is only in salah. While I'm here for 4 rakats, I fear Allah, I can't do nothing haram. As soon as I go outside, I can do whatever I want. The khashiyah of salah is to be developed for the rest of our lives. That my 24-hour lives have to be on the commandment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. My work, my school, my job, my family, my loved ones, everyone, that's my life, has to be with khashiyat and the remembrance of Allah. Meaning, the fear of Allah in a sense that I'm not afraid, but I don't want to lose Allah. That's why we interact with them in that manner. So that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He mentions hum fi salatihim khashi'un, He does not mention hum fi salatihim ajizun. Aids would only refer to weakness in salah where they bow down and put their knees down. No. He mentions khashi'un for the reason that it's for our entire life. Let's move forward because we don't have enough time. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنِ اللَّغْوِ مُعْرِضُونَ The third ayat of the Quran. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنِ اللَّغْوِ مُعْرِضُونَ And those who turn away from Allah. And what is Allah? We'll talk about that in just a few moments. But literally, when we talk about it, you read the Quran, you read different translations, it will say dirty, false, evil, vain talk, falsehood, anything that Allah has forbidden. All are the meanings of the word love. So it says, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنِ اللَّغْوِ مُعْرِضُونَ That these are individuals who completely abstain and stay away from dirty, false, evil, vain talks, falsehood, all these things, these people completely stay away from them. The word Allah. What is the word Allah? It is actually in Arabic linguistics a useless activity. Anything that is useless, which is usually a speech or an activity that will lead you towards no benefit. It's usually a speech or an action that will lead you towards nothing, right? It's no benefit in this dunya, nor any benefit in the hereafter. And it produces no worldly gain for an individual and no spiritual benefit at the same time. Meaning there's nothing for that individual to do. And that's why Rasulullah ﷺ mentioned this famous hadith. If you remember, I mentioned this in a few Pathway to Jannah ago. Rasulullah, Imam Dawud rahmatullah alayhi mentioned that I studied 400,000 ahadith. And that's a lot of ahadith. And he says from these 400,000 ahadith, I extracted them to be 4 ahadith. And anyone who remembers these 4 ahadith and practices upon them, it is as though that they have practiced over 400,000 ahadith. And then he tells us those 4 ahadith. Of course, we don't have time to go over them, but I'll quickly list them, and one of them actually is related to Allah. So Imam Nawawi rahmatullah alayhi said one of the hadith, one of the 4 is إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّةِ the famous hadith. That actions are dependent upon its niyyah and intention. We all know this. That's number 1. Number 2, he said that from amongst the characteristics of a believer is that you will love whatever you love for yourself, you love for your brothers. That's number 2. Number 3 is that al-halalu bayyin wal-haramu bayyin baynahum ishtibah. Halal and haram has been made clear. Between it is doubtful things, so stay away from it. Stay away from the doubtful. And last but not least, min husn al-islam al-mar'i. From amongst the excellence of a believer is at-tarku ma la yani. To stay away from useless things. From amongst the excellence of a believer is that he or she avoids things that are useless. Alhamdulillah, our phones are for great benefit. But wallahi, they could be the useless things in the world as well. Well, I'm telling you, they could be the most beneficial things for us, but sometimes they could be the most useless things for us as well. Because when we get to a point of our life that it's taking so much away from us, then we need to be careful. So anil lagwi, things that we get involved in that are no benefit to us in this world and no spiritual benefit of akhirah. So those who really develop a sense of humility and awe in their prayers have no urge of things like that. A person who has khushu, and a person who has devotion in salah, they don't feel like doing anything else. There's no desire to engage in small and useless talks. And they realize the blessings of time. And when someone has, imagine, when someone has a meeting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala 5 times a day, they must be overwhelmed with each meeting that I gotta meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And outside of that meeting, what do? They have no time to talk about anyone else without a purpose, because they know I gotta meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala 5 times a meet. And that is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning to us and describing these types of people, and they say mu'ridun, which means that they completely, constantly, continuously turn away from things which are useless. They don't get engaged in useless topics and things. In this case, useless, unbeneficial talk is what is being turned away from all of these people. I remember when I went to Sheikh Farhan Tafsir, he was a great scholar of his time, a great muhaddis, a teacher of many of our teachers. And I went to get ijazat hadith from him, and I asked, can I get the permission of hadith from him? And he said these 2 hadith. One was this hadith, that from the among excellence of a believer is that you avoid things which are useless. And the second thing he told me was that a mu'min can never be a believer unless some other Muslims are safe from your hand and from your tongue. Hadith of Rasulullah, both of these. So how important it is for us to avoid things which are useless, brothers and sisters. Today what happens? You go upon any social media. Yes, it's beneficial, but think about it your own self. Introspect your own self. What is the 80 to 90% of the time spent after that? Is love. It's useless. There's no benefit of going through so many things which will, wallahi, never benefit an individual. And if it's benefiting you, khair, mashallah, may Allah give you more barakah. But if it's not, then we really need to assess our own selves. So the quality that Allah mentioned after the salah and life having khushu and of course devotion, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ مِنَ اللَّغْوِ مُعْرِضُونَ, they avoid useless things. Those which are beneficial things, they're away from it. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِزَكَاتِهِمْ فَاعِلُونَ. These are those individuals who are careful for giving their zakat, meaning they give their wealth, and they give their wealth in a proper manner. And brothers and sisters, this is not only zakat, it refers to the purity of our mal and our wealth. As Rasulullah said, no one will move on the day of Qiyamah unless they answer 5 questions. And 2 of them are related to mal. Allahu Akbar. 5 things that every single person sitting and standing in this room, wallahi, we will be asked. Rasulullah said, how did you live your life? How did you live your life when you were young? Specific, even though it was included in your life. But again we'll be asked, how did you live when you were young? 3rd question, where did you earn? Where did you spend? And 4th, how much did you act upon what Allah had given you as knowledge? 2 of the 5 questions are about our mal, our wealth. Brothers and sisters, today we don't really realize what effect mal has in it. One of my very dear friend as a scholar, he said one brother called him to his house. And he says, my kids are acting up. Can you please speak to him? He said, I took the kids to the side. They knew me as an uncle. He's, mashallah, a well-known scholar. He went there. He started speaking. He said, I talked to them. I thought I was going to hit their hearts, speak to them. They were going to start tearing. They were going to start crying. Maybe they start make tawbah. He said, I talked to these kids. Nothing is happening. And he goes, finally, my friend comes to me. And he goes, so-and-so, stop. Don't talk to them anymore. I said, for what reason? He said, while you were talking to them, I realized one thing. He said, I realized that it's not their fault, it's my fault. For all of my life, I fed them with haram, and how can I expect halal to come from them? He says, my earning for all of my life was haram. What I earned for my children was no good. And now when Allah changed my life, now I think that I want my children to become super pious. Not possible. Not possible. So he said, of course it is possible from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I got water if you want. No candies. Okay, no, he doesn't. So now this is the thing to realize, brothers and sisters. Of course Allah is Kareem. Allah can even change those hearts. I don't say that we put an end towards thinking of there's no correction. Allah can correct any individual. Allah is subhanahu wa ta'ala qadir. You take it, it's yours. Allah is qadir, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can change anything and everything that Allah wants. Take it, it's yours. It's yours. I promise I didn't drink. I drank this one. Huh? I need a translator. Yes, you take it. Alhamdulillah. Well, we're blessed to have children in the masjid, right? These are our future generation, inshallah. They are the ones who are going to fill up the sufuf, inshallah, once we are gone. They said that for parents, it's a good thing, for especially fathers. If you're not listening to iqamah in the masjid, if you're not listening to the adhans in the masjid, don't expect these little ones to be here at the time of iqamah. It's important for us to be in the masjid and bring them continuously, that inshallah they will become a part of the masjid. They will love the houses of Allah. So when the ayat of the Quran is saying that they will give zakat, they will give and they will purify. So it does not mean that zakat means to purify. A lot of people think I can earn whatever I want and my zakat is my purification. Zakat is not purification of your haram earning. Zakat is the purification of your pure money. And that's why it's important to understand, brothers and sisters, one thing between us and Sahaba, Allahu Akbar. May Allah give us the love of Sahaba, brothers and sisters. فَمَنْ أَحَبَّهُمْ فَبِحُبِّي أَحَبَّهُمْ. For indeed the love of Sahaba is truly the love of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So what did it say? They say that the Sahaba, Ajib, Sahaba used to cry over their good deeds more than we cry over our sins. Right? Sahaba used to cry over their good deeds more than they cry over our sins. The Sahaba used to cry over the purest of the wealth that we don't even cry over our worst of the wealth itself, right? How pure was their mal and their wealth. And they were still so afraid for giving that how will Allah accept my mal and my wealth? So brothers and sisters, the word zakat, which means to purify and to cleanse and to grow, doesn't mean that it's only there to actually clean our haram wealth, but it's reality to make sure our clean wealth is clean. I remember a quick story. I know it's kind of getting late, but I'm going to quickly try to finish this. Zakat itself, how important it is. I remember a story from the stories of Aslaf, that there was a father who used to have a land where he had plantations growing, right? And fruits and harvests and crops growing. So there are two types of zakat. I don't want to make this a fiqh lesson, a very complicated one. So usual zakat actually is 1/40th, 2.5%, right? That's what most of us know of. But then there is certain type of lands that grow the crops directly from the rainwater, not from anything else, directly from the rainwater. That is known as ushar. They actually have to give 1/10. And that's the larger portion of zakat that has to be given. That's a whole science to itself. That's why it's so important to be connected with your ulama to know how to give your zakat properly. So there was a father who would actually give ushar upon the crops that he would have and harvest every single year. So every single year he would bring the entire crops near his house. He would have his children, his wife, himself, and he would say, this is what Allah gave us this year, and this is 1/10 for the sake of Allah put to the side, and the rest he would tell his daughter to go and save it for the use for the entire year. This portion is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the zakat of our mal. 1/10 he would take out in front of the children so that they know from the very beginning that we need to give for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Brothers and sisters, create this habit in front of your children. Not at the time when there is musibah or difficulty. May Allah keep us in ease and comfort. Make this a habit in front of your children that you're giving money for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah's qasam, your money will never decrease if you're giving it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The angel announces every single day when it rises that Allah increase for the one who gives for the sake of Allah, and Allah decrease for the one who holds back their wealth. For indeed, bukhil, a person who withholds, can never even smell the fragrance of Jannah. So learn to give for the sake of Allah. So he would give his zakat in front of the children, so the children would realize that, you know what, we also need to do this. He would do this every single year. So he would do this every single year. He would do this every single year. So one day, he brought back the wealth, but he knew that the harvest was not as much as it used to be in previous years. So before bringing the mal, the father already took out the 1/10. He brought back the wealth and the mal and the crops and the harvest. And he told his daughter in front of all the children, take the grains and put it for our use. So the daughter said, the crops and the grains are less this year. And my dad must be afraid and scared that we will get afraid of how we will survive for the entire year. And that's why he's not taking out the 1/10. So when he tells me to put it to the side, I will go inside and take the 1/10 and give it for the sake of Allah. Even though the father had already done it. Even though the father had already done it. So she takes that harvest, and before she places where she used to put it for the usage of every year's grain, because that's how it used to be the custom for the whole year's grain people used to take. So now when she takes there, she takes out 1/10 and she gives that for the sadaqah for the sake of Allah to the poor. The daughter keeps the rest inside the house where the father usually tells her to keep. And now the entire year passed, and they're using and they're using and they're using. And when the next year came and it was time to refill the place, they open it, and where they store it, the grains are as much as they were when the beginning of the year had started. Meaning it was almost the same amount, almost not decreased. And they're surprised. Every year it finishes. It's much more, but this year, why isn't it finishing? So subhanAllah, at this moment he said what? The daughter says, my dad, you're afraid to take it out, so I took out the 1/10. He says, my daughter, I wasn't scared. I was scared that maybe you guys would feel that it was not going to be enough for us, so I had already taken out the 10th. So they had given twice as much. So what Allah had returned for them in many folds. So when we give for the sake of Allah, brothers and sisters, never feel that it will ever become less. Junaid Jamshed rahmatullah alayhi, a good friend and a great person, and a great personality, and whenever I remember him, may Allah reward him in the highest of the places in Al-Firdaus Al-A'la. I remember the last message that he sent me. I was sitting in Arafah, and it was September, the year, and in Arafah it says, Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah, Junaid Jamshed praying for you in Arafah. I still remember this, and he sent it to many of his friends, and all of us received it at one time in Arafah. That was his last message that he ever sent. He usually used to share this a lot. He said that when Allah changed my life, and I came towards Deen, I left the singing and all the other stuff that I used to do, and there was millions of dollars that were involved in publications and this and that, and I left everything. It came to a point that he said I was almost broke in my house. There was nothing to even eat in halal forms in my house. So he said I only had 10 lakh rupees, 10 lakh rupees, which is not a lot of money for a person who lived such a huge life. So he said, I came across one of my friends, and he's still here in Pakistan. He says, he told me to start a business, and he says, why don't you start doing clothing and this and that, mashallah, for that right there. So he said, why don't you start doing clothing and stuff? So he said, of course, let's start doing it. So he said, when I started doing this, I went to Sheikh Mufti Taqi Usmani, one of our teachers. May Allah give him a long life of barakah and izzah and respect and dignity. One of the masters in the sciences of Islam and one of the greatest scholars of his time. He said, I went to Sheikh Mufti Taqi and I asked him that, Hazrat, this has happened, Allah changed my life, I came this and that, and now I want to start a business. What nasihat do you give me? So he said, I'll tell you only one nasihat. He says, make Allah your partner in your business. He says, what? How do I make Allah a partner in my business? Subhanahu wa ta'ala. Meaning, if Allah is in my business, I'm always a successful guy, right? If Allah is in your business, subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says, do this. Whatever you earn, and this is hard, this is not for everyone. Don't take this, don't try that at home without consultation with your families and your scholars. So he said, keep 1/3 for yourself, 1/3 you invest back in your family, in your business, and 1/3 you give for the sake of Allah. That's your partner. That's your partnership in Allah with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Meaning 1/3 is for you, your personal use, 1/3 goes back to your business that you're spending, and 1/3 is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's your partner. Do this. He said, I promised him, and I said, that's my deal. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is my partner in my business. He said, we came back, we had 10 lakh rupees. This is the only investment that I had. We cut our clothing. We didn't know what we were doing. It was the first time cutting the clothing, for the first time when the cutting was happening. He says the guy who cut the clothes, the small size, he cut it too small. So rather than being a men's size small, it became like a children large or something like that. It was like a big flop. Even though the color wasn't children, but it was a men's color cloth that wouldn't fit anyone else. I said, Ya Rab, what did happen to us? What had just happened? 10 lakh, that was the only thing I had. I put all my money inside. Allah, you are my partner. And he says, all of a sudden my partner, who is, I wouldn't name, he's still here, mashallah, he's still a partner with him in the business. He gives it to his family. He said he receives a call from a country where people usually are smaller in size and they need larger and smaller fitting clothing. So they said, we need these many clothing as customized and we'll pay you double the amount. Just give us that size which is cut. So he said, we made double the profit. He said, we made double the profit in the loss that I saw in front of my own eyes, but I made double the profit because Allah was my partner. Because I knew that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was going to give me. Allah was going to provide for me. So وَهُمْ لِزَكَاتِهِمْ فَاعِلُونَ, they give their wealth for the sake of Allah. They don't hold back. Brothers and sisters, when there comes a time for your zakat, that should be the happiest day of your life. That Allah gave me a chance that I'm cleaning my wealth, that I'm giving someone. And I tell this to all of my friends all the time, that your 2.5% is more than 100% of millions, if not billion of people across the globe. Your 2.5% is more than the 100% of million, if not billion of people across the globe. That's what Allah has given you. You should be grateful that Allah is allowing you to give. And not only this, give more for what Allah has given. A lot of time people come to me, Mufti Saab, I have a family member and I cannot give them zakat. Can you tell me how I can give them zakat? I was like, what? You know you can't give them zakat. How do you want me to tell you how to give them zakat? I said, brother, the 97.5 you got in your bank account, take a little bit out of it and give it to them. Zakat is only 2.5. Why do we need to do everything to all of our poor family members through that 2.5? What about the 97.5? Why can we not do this, brothers and sisters? You're doing tijarat with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And who would be a greater partner than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Will return it many, many fold itself. I'm not a fundraiser. I'm not raising any funds. Sharifa, you were standing over the box now? No? Okay. So now, important for us to give. Wallahi, brothers and sisters, you will never decrease your wealth when you give for the sake of Allah. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِزَكَاتِهِمْ فَاعِلُونَ, they give their money for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِفُرُوجِهِمْ حَافِظُونَ, and those who guard their chastity, meaning their private parts, from illegal relationship, illicit relationships. Brothers and sisters, Rasulullah said, guarantee two things. I guarantee you Jannah. May Allah protect us, brothers and sisters. For wallahi, a time has come, Allah protect us, when we make marriages difficult, zina becomes and easy. When we make marriages difficult, and I tell this to parents, if you're sitting here and you have children who are of a marriageable age, please do not make it difficult for them. For wallahi, the girl who will come, she will bring her own rizq. She will bring her own sustenance. Allah has taken a promise. وَمَا مِن دَابَةٍ فِي الْأَرْضِ إِلَّا عَلَى اللَّهِ رِزْقُهَا. It is rizq from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't make marriages for your children difficult. Because you making marriages difficult will make zina and adultery, fornication easy for the young ones. It's become so easy for people to do. They say, what's the need when we can do whatever we want? Please make marriages easy for the people so that they can live their life upon the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِفُرُوجِهِمْ حَافِظُونَ. What did Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam say? Guarantee me two things. What is the guarantee of two things? Guarantee me what is between your jaws. Wallahi, this is so difficult. This is so difficult. For those who are married, you know this. It's so difficult, man. That's why Allah gave us these 32 teeth to lock this precious piece of tongue so that we don't say things, brothers and sisters. The wounds of swords can heal, but the wounds that we say from our tongues may never heal, as the Arabic couplet mentions. And that's why the words that are said once can never be taken back. And that's why Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, the man of such iman, would say, جِرْمُهُ صَغِيرٌ وَجُرْمُهُ كَبِيرٌ. He would say, my tongue is small, but the sin of it is large. For indeed, my Nabi Muhammad said, for those who hold their tongue, meaning those who speak less are indeed the successful ones. For those who speak more are more likely to err and make a mistake. So what did Rasulullah say? Guarantee me two things. Guarantee me what is between your jaws for what you say. And guarantee me what is between your two thighs. I guarantee you Jannah. Protect for what you say and protect your respect and dignity. Wallahi, If these two things can be protected, if you can protect these two things, Rasulullah ﷺ said, I guarantee you Jannah. May Allah protect this for us. May Allah protect this for our families and our children and our loved ones. Because brothers and sisters, we are going through a time of such fitna that all of the wrong has become so easy, so acceptable, where people don't even see this as harm anymore. People don't see wrong and haram as haram anymore. So وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِفُرُوجِهِمْ حَافِظُونَ, what do? They stay away from all acts of shamelessness, which are included in this very ayah of the Quran. And in our time, brothers and sisters, guarding oneself of all types of shamelessness is extremely difficult, except by the tawfiq of Allah. And that's why even, subhanAllah, I always remember the story of Surah Yusuf, in Yusuf alayhi salam, that it takes courage, it takes strength, it takes the power of an individual to run towards Allah. But wallahi, when you run towards Allah, even in that condition, then subhanAllah, Allah will make ways. I mentioned this in the afternoon, I think either last night, where the man was saying, when they went to him and they told him, can you give us your cows and your sheep, and your owner will never find out. And the Bedouin was saying, فَأَيْنَ Allah, where is my Allah? Then where will be my Allah? I can do it, I'll give you, no one will find out. But where will be my Allah? Brothers and sisters, the consciousness, awareness. You must remember the famous story, I'm not going to get inside. When 3 people were stuck inside the cave, they're making dua. One made dua for the reasons of providing for the parents. One gave money to the person that has left and gave all the wealth. And what was the third person? That I love someone so dearly, and when I had the complete power and strength over that individual, and she only uttered one word, and she says, Ittaqillah, fear Allah. And the name of Allah was enough for me to leave everything which I love so dearly, and no one would have ever known and questioned me for it. But it was only the name of Allah that allowed me to move away, brothers and sisters. That consciousness had to be developed. Because we are coming to a time that haram will become so easy for us. A blink of an eye, a click of a thing is so easy. Haram is so easy. A click of a button to get you anything. But if the fear of Allah would stop us from doing it, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِفُرُوجِهِمْ حَافِظُونَ, these are the individuals who mentioned this ayat of the Quran. They're extremely worried and cautious about falling in these shameless acts and deeds. That's what the Quran is saying. إِلَّا عَلَىٰ أَزْوَاجِهِمْ أَوْ مَا مَلَكَتْ أَيْمَانُهُمْ فَإِنَّهُمْ غَيْرَ مَلُومِينَ. And this ayat of the Quran is saying, except for their wives and their right hand possesses, for them they are free from their blames. Meaning, they're allowed to, from their wives and what Allah gives them, it is acceptable. And this ayat of the Quran speaks about the right hand, which is a detailed topic itself. Brother Sharif is already setting up the projector. I was told by 8 o'clock, I'm already at 8:10. I got 4 more ayats of the Quran, but I'm going to quickly go through this. Except for your wives. So Rasulullah said, Ad-dunya mata'un. This dunya is just material. And the best of this dunya is maratu salihah, a righteous woman. If Allah gives you a pious wife, a righteous spouse, you got everything. Brothers and sisters, I remember sharing this with you last time. I said, I ask you for 4 things that you write on a piece of paper. I'm not going to give you a paper. But think about 4 things which define success in your mind. If you have these 4 things, you are the most successful person. I'm not talking about Jannah. I'm not talking about deen. I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about 4 things in this dunya. If you have, you are the most successful individual, according to your mind, according to yourself. If you look at the hadith of Rasulullah, what did he say? The Prophet said, أَيَّكُونُ زَوْجَتُهُ صَالِحًا. If Allah gives you a good spouse, وَأَوْلَادُهُ أَبْرَارًا, and Allah gives you good children, وَرِزْقُهُ فِي بَلَدِهِ, and Allah gives you your sustenance close to the people that you love, وَخُلَتَهُ الصَّالِحِينَ, and Allah gives you good friends. If Allah gives you these 4 things, you're on that top Fortune 500 company. You're top notch. You are those who made it, the Forbes list, whatever you are. You made it. Why? Because Rasulullah said, you are the most fortunate individual with 4 things. Righteous spouse, obedient children, risk and sustenance close to the ones that you love, and good friends and companions. So, except for the wives, they do not indulge in haram and wrong deeds. فَمَنِ ابْتَغَى وَرَاءَ ذَلِكَ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْأَعْدُونَ. But whoever seeks beyond this, these are the transgressors. For those who look for other venues of fulfilling their desires and haram, then they are the udu. Like, no, they have gone towards becoming the enemies and transgressors of the limits of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِأَمَانَاتِهِمْ وَأَهْدِهِمْ رَاعُونَ. Quickly, these are the last two things I'll finish with. That they fulfill their amanat, they fulfill their trust, and they fulfill their promises. And brothers and sisters, this is something that the ummah is missing now. This was the trait of the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Wa'ada and promise was the basis and foundation of the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. If you remember, I said this, that when Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam was inspired to marry Aisha radiallahu anha, he went to the house of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu. He knocked on the door, he asked for Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, he wasn't there. The wife of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was there. At this moment, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam asked, she says, he's not here. So the Prophet ﷺ said, I have come here to ask for the marriage of Aisha radiallahu anha. So what was her reply? She said, O Prophet ﷺ, this is the greatest day that you walked to our house, but I regret to inform you that my husband has given his word to someone else. And she says, my husband is the man of his words. Even Rasulullah ﷺ came to the door, that it was the words that mattered the most. لِأَهْدِهِمْ, the promises. And of course, later on, the other person broke the covenant, and then he married, Rasulullah married Aisha radiallahu anha. So, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِأَمَانَتِهِمْ وَأَهْدِهِمْ رَاعُونَ. They fulfill their amanat and their trust and their promises, ra'un, which means that they fulfill their covenants completely and fully. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَلَى صَلَاتِهِمْ يُحَافِظُونَ. They protect their salats at all times. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْوَارِثُونَ. These are the true inheritors. These are the true inheritors, and this is a surprise. This ayat of the Quran just ends there. أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْوَارِثُونَ. They are the inheritors, meaning they got it. They have inherited. What have they inherited? And then the final ayah of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, الَّذِينَ يَرِثُونَ الْفِرْدَوْسِ هُمْ فِيهَا خَالِدُونَ. For indeed they have inherited Firdaus, the greatest of Jannah. هُمْ فِيهَا خَالِدُونَ. They will be in there forever. May Allah give us tawfiq to practice, inshallah. And all eyes are on things that are sparkling, inshallah. So you already have turned that way. May Allah give us tawfiq, and may Allah make us from amongst the people of Jannah. Give us the traits of the people of Firdaus al-A'la. May Allah give us all these beautiful qualities that have been mentioned. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to our lives to live according to the Quran and the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Wa ma alayna illa al-balagh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.